You guys comfortable? I'm not comfortable, especially standing up here in front of you. If you are comfortable, I guarantee you by the end of this talk, you will not be comfortable. That's one of the things I love most. I love making people uncomfortable, right? Like, if I just stood here and looked you in the eye for 2 minutes without saying anything, like this, like some of you start fidgeting and shit, right? Like, it's really uncomfortable to have somebody just stare you in the eye and not do anything or say anything. Raise your hand if you've ever been on a call with me. Or you've talked to me in person. Keep your hand up. All right, so keep your hand up. If you've been on a call with me and I've made you uncomfortable or challenged you in some way, keep your hand up. That's everyone. See, here's the thing. When I get on these calls, one of the things I notice with gym owners is that they get comfortable. Like, they get to a certain point after they open their gym and they stop doing the risky things that got them to where they are, right? You guys remember when you opened your gym or you started working for a gym? Say yes if you remember. Yeah. It was scary, right? Raise your hand if you were scared shitless when you opened your gym. Or when you started working for a gym. All right, if your hand's not up, you're fucking lying. Because it's scary. It is scary. But once you start to kind of get in there, you realize it's not that bad. Nobody died, right? You're not sleeping on the streets. Well, I hope you're not. Everything worked out, yeah? You're here, right? You could afford to actually come here or drive here. But like I said, after a while, you start to get comfortable. You stop having those conversations, right? So I opened a gym. So like Chris said, I have a gym in London. And back when I opened it, almost everything I did was illegal, right? Like, I didn't have planning permission. I didn't have certifications. In fact, I found out later that it wasn't even legal for me to open a business in the UK because I was not a citizen there, right? But figured all that stuff out. And as we grew, I had to have a lot of uncomfortable conversations. So I had to decide to spend more money to open a new space. I had to decide to fire 2 of the other owners, or buy them out, or whatever you want to call it. I had to fire some shitty coaches. I had to do a whole bunch of uncomfortable stuff, right? And eventually, I made the uncomfortable decision to quit the job that brought me to the UK in the first place. A funny story about that. So you guys have heard of Brexit, right? Anyone heard of Brexit? Yeah, okay, so it's the thing that, you know, keeps immigrants from coming into the country. They did that for people like me because it was illegal for me to actually own a gym and run a gym in that country without a visa, right? So it was very uncomfortable. So what happened was I lost that visa. I applied to get another one. We waited, found out that we had to go back to California to get that visa approved. So go back to California. I'm staying with my parents, my wife and my toddler. Got there. 6 months it took for us to hear that we got approved for the visa, right? So we're like, great. Got our visa, booking a flight, we're going back home. 2 days before I was supposed to go back home, I got a call from my immigration guy. They said, because you overstayed your previous visa, not only are we declining this one, but you are banned from the country for 10 years. So I'm living with my parents, with my wife and my daughter, and I'm in my mid-30s. Like, everything to that point had kind of worked out, but that was a real fuck up. Like, I didn't know what to do, right? My whole life was there. My apartment, my business, everything was there, and I couldn't go back to the country for 10 years. And so about 45 minutes I spent doing the woe is me thing, right? So, you know, this is shitty. I can't believe this happened to me. I'm providing jobs. This is not fair, right? So about 45 minutes. And then I realized, like, this is the worst case scenario for me. Like, when I moved out of my house when I was 18, I said I would never go back and live with my parents, ever. And here I am living with my parents in a much worse situation than when I was 18. And I realized this is the worst case scenario, right? I'm sure that worse things could have happened, but this is the worst case scenario I imagined. And so I said, well, fuck it. If this is as bad as it gets, let's just do it again. 6 weeks later, we opened CrossFit Hale. we ran our first class. So funny thing happened in the first class. So my first class had 10 people. I didn't know Chris at the time. We didn't have Founders Club. We had 10 people, 6 of them were related to me, right? So the 4 people that were there kind of visiting, or checking it out, we started doing some warm-ups. One of them, we did some like kettlebell squats, did a couple squats, stood up, he put it down, he stood there, and he fucking passed out, right? Not only did he pass out, his head went through the drywall in my first class. This is like the worst case scenario. We had to call the fire department and everything, right? It was awful. Whatever. So the guy was okay, but the best part about the story was we went and sat him down on the couch, and it was clear that he was going to be okay. He just hadn't eaten much that day. And his wife looks at him and she goes, well, it looks like he's okay. Let's finish the class. So is the thing, like, as we kind of grew that gym, I had to make a lot more uncomfortable conversations, right? I had to hire coaches. I had to fire people. I had to grow the gym. I had to, expand classes. I had to raise the prices. A lot of uncomfortable conversations. But the thing is, despite all these uncomfortable conversations and the fact that I am willing to take risks, I'm actually pretty conservative. What I like to do is mitigate the risk by asking myself a series of questions that will make me feel more comfortable about the situation. So, I'm going to go through those questions with you. And whether you are a gym owner or you're just standing around or you are a vendor back there, I want you to pull out a piece of paper, right? Pull out a piece of paper and a pen, and we're going to make a list together. You don't get to opt out of this one. Pull out a piece of paper and a pen. You're going to make a list. I'm going to give you exactly 2 minutes to do this. You're going to answer the question, what are you avoiding right now? Right? So it could be gym related, it could be life related, it could be things like maybe you need to fire that coach, maybe you need to hire someone, maybe you need to get rid of another owner, maybe you need to raise your prices, maybe you need to break up with your girlfriend. If she's here with you, maybe don't write that down. Just what are you avoiding right now? What are you dragging your feet on? You know you need to do it, or something that just makes you cringe. 2 minutes, go. Write stuff down, as many things as you can. Somebody raise their hand, tell me their thing. Hold on, guys. All right. I know it's tempting when you're bearing your soul to start a conversation. We're going to do this multiple times. So so what was your thing? Raising your prices. Anyone else? Oh, come on, guys. Moving the gym. Back there? So having the conversation as to, like, talking about sales, or?
Yeah, you need to make a living at our gym. It's not a situation where I can fire them from other classes still.
Yep.
But it's going to, in other words, be, hey man, it's been a year of these conversations or longer.
Yep.
How are we going to make a living?
Yeah, and he hasn't worked it out. Okay. Oh, wait, don't turn around.
I'm ready, man.
What is the worst thing that could happen if you have that conversation?
I take all of the classes again.
You take all, he just quits.
Yeah, he quits.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, maybe not all, but the majority of my stuff goes again.
Right. Okay. That's the worst case scenario. Okay. All right, guys. So you're going to turn to your partner. This is going to be quick. And I want you to explain to them what is the worst thing that could happen if you take the next step on whatever it is that you said. Go. All right. So we've gone through the worst case scenario. Raise your hand if you or your partner had a really good one. Come on. Somebody. All right. What was the thing?
Worst case scenario is
No. What was the thing you're afraid of?
to straighten out some coaches that I need to straighten out.
Some characters.
Yes.
Okay. Straighten out some characters.
People.
Some people. Deal with those people. All right. Then what's the worst thing that could happen?
I get this weight off my chest no matter what. So free up.
That sounds great. What's the worst thing that could happen?
That's I'm trying to be positive about it, I guess. But they leave.
They leave. What about if they take all the members with them?
I don't think they could.
But that might happen, right?
Some weird universe, but yes.
It could happen, right? So they leave, they take all the members with them, you have to shut down the gym. That would suck. You know, I'm making it worse than it is, right? All right, so if they leave, take all their members, you have to shut down the gym. What is the likelihood from 1 to 10? 1 meaning there's no chance it's going to happen, 10 meaning like this is absolutely going to happen, of that actually happening?
1 to 2.
1 to 2. All right, anyone else? Give me another one. Yes? Okay. Oh, I love this one. We should talk. Okay, so you're afraid to quit your job. What's the worst that can happen if you quit your job? That's real, right? Yeah, you lose the house, don't make money, right? You're living on the streets. Yep. And you're calling up going, this two-brain business shit doesn't work. Right? Okay, what's the likelihood of that happening, 1 to 10? Okay, good. All right, turn to your partner. Really quick, 1 to 10, what's the likelihood of the worst case scenario happening? All right, it doesn't take that long to say a number. Somebody raise their hand if they had anything above a 7. Anything above a 7. Okay, what was your thing?
I'm a teacher, so parent communication is huge.
Yep.
And I have to have a lot of difficult conversations with parents. So depending on the parent, it's very likely that I will.
So, like, what conversation are you avoiding?
So I am a literacy coach, so I work with struggling readers and writers. So I have to talk about placement for kids for next year.
Yep.
At this time of year.
Yeah, so telling them where they're going next.
Yes.
Yep.
And parents get very emotional about
Yep.
those conversations, understandably. And so it's just a lot of working through.
Okay. Yeah, so the worst case is like they
They get very upset,
Very
angry,
upset.
don't want anything.
And then
don't
they-
communicate anymore, totally
yep,
shut off
they
the
report
line.
you to the school board
Yes,
and
right, and now
yeah.
they can't help their child. Actually, is the worst case.
Yeah,
Now they
and
can't do anything.
and that's a 7 or above. Yep. So how would you deal with that? How would you recover from that if it happened?
I mean, I guess it's difficult because if the parent refuses services, there's really not anything that I can do beyond class. I mean, like, so I could help their classroom teacher, I guess,
Right.
support that student. So I
Right.
could mentor the teacher to inadvertently.
Awesome. All right. Anyone else 7 or above? Don't make me call on some of you guys. All right, here we go. What was your thing? Yeah.
My wife is due with our second child
Yep.
in September, and the names are left out is an issue for us. So it has ramifications family-wise because I'm the sixth.
Okay.
I don't want to continue tradition, so it could have implications with my dad, my grandfather.
Got it. So you want to name him something besides junior, junior, junior?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
typical conversation.
Yes. Got it. How would you recover from the worst case scenario?
It would be like, I just wouldn't be talking to my dad, my grandfather, I guess.
You would.
That would be the worst case scenario.
Yeah, that's the worst case. How would you recover from that?
Use people that are in my life that I have strong relationships with.
Right. Could you repair those relationships after a time?
I would hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing, guys. I want you to write down, I want you to share with your partner how you would recover from the worst case scenario happening. All right? Go. I want somebody to raise their hand with an issue that might be common for a gym. Maybe you need to fire someone, raise your prices, maybe you want to quit your job, something like that. So anyone have an issue like that? Yes? Okay, so you want to raise your rates, right? And what is the worst that could happen if you raise your rates?
Well, I mean, that's what we're saying. The worst that can happen is like everybody quits.
Everybody quits. Fantastic. How likely is that?
I would put that at like a 0.
0. Okay. So that's not a real risk then.
I would have to raise the rates pretty high.
Yeah, okay. So you raise the rates, maybe it's like a 1 or 2 at the most. Right, okay. All right, so how would you recover if everyone quit?
How would I recover if everyone quit? I would, what was the thing? Like, just find different clients, just
Yep.
all sorts of. I would keep doing what I'm doing. It would just be in a different way.
Okay.
I'd have a good cry.
Yep. So we're getting to the key questions here, guys. What is it costing you to not do this?
A lot.
How much?
Probably like $2,000 a month.
$2,000 a month, 24 grand a year, right? Okay. Anyone else got a gym related thing? Yes.
Play off that a little bit. If you ever talk to people, I did everybody too. I have to either find new clients or my push was just go from somewhere else, money.
Yep.
I already got the distance now, right? So, granted, I started thinking, well, maybe I'm avoiding that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe rebranding, starting fresh from scratch would be my next best thing.
Maybe. Yeah. What's it costing you to not take some action on this? What's that? No clue. Well, it's not always a financial cost, right? It could be costing you time. It could be costing you happiness. Remember Dave Tate was talking about driving up to the gym and he hated everybody? Like, has anyone had that experience? Yeah, I've had that. Right? You drive up to the gym and you're like, oh, fuck, that guy's here today, right? Oh, you see their car in the parking lot? Yeah, I've had that, right? And you know what? When that happened to me, I realized I quit a job to start this business. There's no fucking way that I'm going to let somebody make me uncomfortable at my business, right? And I realized it was costing me my happiness, right? Anyone else? Something gym related? Yeah.
Giving out more work to coaches because kind of scared to, like, I don't know if they'll do as good a job as my baby.
Well, I'll tell you they won't, right? But you do have to delegate, right? So delegating work, right? So what's the worst that can happen if you delegate?
They take on a huge role and eventually decide to start their own gym, take a bunch of months.
That's good. I would have thought crash and burn, but that's better, right? Okay, what's the likelihood of that happening?
I think pretty low at this point.
Like 1, 2?
Well, we had a similar situation happen, but it wasn't, we thought it was going to be really bad. It wasn't that bad and actually turned out to be the best thing.
Yeah. Has anyone had coaches leave their gym to go start another gym? Yeah? Or something like that? 9 of them? Wow. Damn. You're going to start a franchise. Yeah. But you're still here, right? Right? The worst case scenario happened, you're still here, right? So it could happen.
The funny thing was, there was a guy who did all our morning classes, and it was almost like a hands-off couple hours for us, and then all of a sudden he decided to leave, and our morning crew went down. It wasn't big; it was maybe 6 down to like 1 or 2.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden now we have to get up really early and
Yeah.
do those classes we never did, and within a few months the morning crew is up to like 15.
Right.
So
Yep.
it was the worst thing at the time, but it's the best thing.
It's the best thing now. Yep. What is it costing you to not delegate?
A lot of time,
A lot of time.
creative time.
It's costing you your perfect day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're doing everything. Yeah. You just talk to the guy next to you. He does nothing. Okay. So you talk to your partner about what it's costing you, okay? Here's the most important question. That thing you're avoiding, that thing that you found out, the worst case scenario, not that likely, and you could recover, and it's costing you a lot, what is the next action you could take to get something done in that area? Turn to your partner, tell them what you can do. All right, raise your hand if you have a next action. Raise your hand. That's like 10 people, come on. Do you have a next action? Raise your hand. We're still working on this? Next action? If you leave here without a next action, you have fucked up. Raise your hand if you have a next action. Okay, fantastic. So here's the deal. Your happiness is correlated to the amount of uncomfortable conversations you are willing to have. Every single time that I've moved forward with my business, it's because I had an uncomfortable conversation. In fact, if it's not uncomfortable, I'm not interested. if you are not willing to have these uncomfortable conversations, you will get stuck where you're at. So I want you to commit to me that in the next 24 hours, you will take this next action. Will you do that? Yes. Say yes if you will. Yes. All right. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time.